Hello, and welcome to ComSpark Magazine interview series. My name is Audra Petrozello. I'm a client director with The Head, and we're partnering with ComSpark Magazine to do a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to Warner Moore, who is the founder of Gamma Force, as well as the Tech Community Coalition. Warner, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me today, Audra. My pleasure, and excited to have the conversation.
So the goal today is really just to get to know you, what's driven you to the success you've had. So I have a few questions, but just hoping to share that with a broader audience. So I think to start, if you could give us a little information about, your name, the organizations you work for, the title that you hold at those different companies, that'd be a great place to start.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks so much, Audra. My background's technology. The bulk of my career working with startups and growth companies, really on the leading edge of technology. Back in the 90s, most of those things had .com in the name, right? So the early days of the internet. And during that time, I've had the fortune of working with numerous and helping build numerous organizations, such as 2Checkout, Cover My Meds, Bold Penguin, many organizations we know today. During that time, I've been super passionate about the technology community through organizing various nonprofit groups such as LAPS of Columbus, Ohio Linux Fest, now known as OLF Conference, founding DevOps Days Columbus, and helping contribute in the community through partnerships and working with other organizations as well. And that passion for nonprofit technology community is really what led to founding a Tech Community Coalition. And what we do is we help the greater technology community through charity and education. We do that through fiscal sponsorship, so help with the business operations, the nuts and bolts of running an event. And then on the side of Gamma Force, what we do is help companies with technology and cybersecurity strategy along the lines of fractional executive services. We work with numerous tech-centric startups and growth companies in Columbus.
Awesome. If you could tell us a little bit more about, you personally and in your career path. I know a lot of people are interested in the steps it took to get where you're at.
I do a lot of mentorship, sometimes working with college students or those later in their career. And it's sometimes interesting to reminisce. I usually try to get to know the person a little better because rambling about my history, I don't think is always helpful. When I started in technology, there wasn't really a defined career path. And cybersecurity was super young. And so a lot of folks working in that space were just super passionate about technology. I enjoyed technologies that allowed us to communicate. The internet, we were able to send messages, email to people all around the world. And that really excited me. So follow your passion might be a bit cliche. I do think there is opportunity to understand the types of organizations and that you appreciate and the types of work that you would like to do, and then focus on developing skills and experience in those areas so you can make an impact with those organizations.
And maybe a little bit more about your company. Maybe we kind of do one and then the other, but just, the industry you're in, the size, the type of products or services, and probably more importantly, the challenges that you're taking on in each one of those verticals.
We had over 80 active technology and startup groups in Columbus. These are groups who met regularly, often monthly. And they were supported by many of our favorite corporations and companies in town. And during the pandemic, we've seen a lot of that support reduce for groups that are meeting virtually, and they're not getting the same corporate support anymore. And when it comes to the groups that are meeting, many of the 80 groups just aren't meeting regularly anymore. And I think that's something that's important to acknowledge, as well as work to improve. we will make it through this pandemic. And there are numerous leaders making a significant impact in our tech community. But right now, we have one of the biggest vacuums I've seen in the 15 plus years I've been active in the Columbus community, where we have less organizers actively contributing. We have less organizations supporting these groups. And I'm maybe getting a little concerned because we need to fix that. I think the tech community is one of the secret recipes that Columbus has. And we have had one of the strongest communities in the country, if not the world. And it takes active curation. So now's a great time to step up and support that, be it as an individual or as a company.
A little bit more about who or what has inspired you, to go into technology and then get to where you're at.
On the cybersecurity side of things, I've worked in technology, and early in my career, cybersecurity was a big part of it. Working with open source technology, so a lot of the technologies that have been impactful in security came out of open source. Snort, an intrusion detection system, Tripwire, a file integrity monitor, and other tools, many other tools. And these open source tools and technologies just made such an impact in cybersecurity early. But I think now we have bigger challenges that are less about tools and more about how we look at risk in our organizations strategically and find ways to enable the businesses and companies that we're working with. Over the past decade, many security organizations would create controls that slowed business down. And that's not a way that we can work anymore. And in many cases, if we're not looking at the risks where we have in our organizations and making decisions as board members or executive leaders about that risk and how we treat it, we're probably missing some things in our companies. So I challenge all of us who are security leaders to look at our organizations holistically and find ways we can enable our organizations to not only understand risk, but proactively manage it in a way that enables our organizations.
Who do you look to for advice or inspiration?
Shoot, I'm fortunate in that I get to spend a lot of time with people who inspire me. And I think it is different in different areas. Somebody who might not be an expert at cloud computing, right? So I work with many great people, individuals and teams who make such a different impact. I think it would be in poor taste to name a single person, but I'll say that those I work with and spend time every day are really where I derive my inspiration from.
So the last one is, knowing what you know now, what would you go back and tell your 25-year-old self?
Not sure I remember being 25 very well. That was a scrappy time. I was helping build a startup at the time, and anyone who's been in an early stage startup going into growth mode knows that there's all sorts of craziness going on. Maybe to spend time understanding how different organizations work at scale, or learn from other people in different industries and spaces. I think that there are so many opportunities to learn from people and companies and situations of different backgrounds, and go out of my way to do so. And my 25-year-old self could benefit from that as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing.